Hi, good morning everyone. It's a real privilege to be here today among like-minded people, people who see the world as a better place than when they got here, people who endeavor to create lofty ideologies, poetries, and just synergies to go forward to solve problems and to together just solve the problems of the world. People who I heard yesterday, the lady from Delhi who wants to create a better space for pedestrians, taking care of the villages in China, just making office spaces, just all of this echoes and rings with just, nerve-tingling excitement. So today, I talk about what we do not see, the unsung heroes, the invisible, the intangible. There is the physical manifestation of self and space. Our physical bodies bordered by our hands and our legs, our extremities, and the internal working of ourselves. And then there is the space, there's the sight, there's the boundary, and there are the parameters within which we work. And then there's the magic. I call that the intangible. Those are the voids, those are the shadows, those are the experiences to be had from meditative, qualitative spaces. A long time ago, a few decades ago in Paris, I had the opportunity of going to a studio of a very fine thinker, Gustave Moreau. Recently, I was back there, and the impact of the man and his words has not diminished. I share that line of thought where he says that the truth lies in what cannot be seen, in cannot be touched. The truth lies, in fact, in what you can imagine and what you can feel. Those are the sublime truths. So beyond the realm of the physical is the spiritual for the individual and for the space. Those are the parameters that need to be understood within parameters that can be defined. A sequence of spaces wherein the void and allowing for the eye to open into spaces beyond, the big beyond, come alive. A watercolor rendering of an idea, which is in fact the mandir space in the middle of a room, and then the actual manifestation of it. The ceiling cut open and the shadows literally becoming like a sundial, wherein every moment of the day can be observed and understood not by looking at your watch, but simply the shadows that are being cast. A manifestation of the sun in all its glory and the way that it enters your home, the way that it lives with you, and the way that every time you pass that space, you're aware of a certain passage of intangible time. The reflections on the floor almost create the second phenomenon. Again, the physical, the solid, and the void interplay and juxtaposed to allow the escape of the eye into spaces that are the deep beyond. When nothingness becomes something, and something that's addressed as something special, then it's everything. The void, in this case, is a vacuum of air and light, and the lines of geometry that you see around it simply frame the void, and in framing it, create a sculpture of something out of nothing. The illusion and perception of space, the magic wands of design, obliterating what is and focusing on what you want to see. The interplay of lines, the curves with the sky, the relationship between the big openness and what is man-created, the symbiosis between the universe and what is built, just the way these lines flirt with the sky. In all of the spaces, you will always look at the space around the object. In this case, a beautiful, almost Japanese-inspired garden, taking up as much space as the room itself. The cohabitation of the intangible with the tangible, with the yin and the yang, with the conflict and the chemistry and the rhythms. A piece of architecture which was created, inspired by traditional Jali work. And if you look at the shadows that are cast upon the rugged texture, it is the other element. It may not be something that can physically be shown as a material, but it is more than the material because it is the existence of the invisible form. A sculpture court, just the ruggedness of the bark of the coconut tree, just mighty and majestic, bereft of adornment. The shadows created from the intricacy of this outdoor space, always to be considered as yet another material, yet another element. Can't show it on your mood board, but that's what exactly creates the mood. An outdoor court where the rooms from the top and the bottom all come together to enjoy this expanse of a 20 feet high void within which the occupancy is limited in terms of the material and the form. The bedrooms opening up into this double height Zen garden, if you will, wherein you can never quite tell the difference between being indoors and out. The sensorial nature of design, the power to touch the senses, the water, the fragrance, the light, the constant shift. And that's when you realize that you've done something right, is when somebody walks in and they're in a state of complete meditative silence, where the language, the words are stripped, and you just stand there asking questions, finding yourself for that brief moment in time. Not the answers, but the questions. A bed created out of 4 stones, a lot of which are scattered in the landscape. Very modestly, but very majestically becomes the bed itself. A very important part of what we do is the collaborative process. I get a call quite often from a gentleman Abdul Bhai. And what he says to me is, Khairiyat, kaisi hai tabiyat? And all he said to me with that Khairiyat is, I'm a languishing artisan. And through his voice, I hear the heavy loaded desire for work. Nothing more than work. And this brings us to the very important aspect in our country wherein everything we see here lives on. Every detail of every art and every palace in the country lives on, but it lives on in a state of imminent demise. And I think in a position of power comes responsibility. We talk about changing the world, its climate, the way that we perceive our cities. The human connect to allow these people to continue generational lineage vocation is incumbent upon us. This is the art of Bidri, the art of, with metal alloys, inlaying silver. We use this art to create modern design, which can still be kept in a modern palace. Not defunct and archaic, but relevant to the correct time and the correct context. Modern lines, exquisite embellishment. This could be your Falaknuma at home. Absolutely clean lines to suit the modern sensibility and the here and now, but they connect with centuries of craft, which tell their stories of a beautiful, decadent, bygone era. This is a basin which won an El Decor award, wood and metal inlaid in silver. So in every project, we bring in India with all its magnificence, all of its history. The inlay will always take you by surprise and create those tactile and pulsating moments. And the serenity of the rest of the Zen kind of complements and allows for it to speak a language, which it does so poignantly. The combination of silver and wood and marble, broken cubes in wood and marble inlaid with lapis, a colonial home and a modern rendition of nest tables in stone and wood. A jacket of silver on a very beautifully lined chair, which is just kept on a beautiful base, an oval base. We allowed for the rotation so that it catches the light in the most majestic way and has this beautiful glow as it swivels. Our sites oftentimes become workshops where people from all over the country come in and create little studios and laboratories where things are tested, metals are added to stone, stone to precious stones, concrete to glass, little laboratories of experiments and constant study and constant pushing of the envelope. A beautiful fulcrum between the art, the craft, the current, the past, the nostalgia, the technology. I do firmly believe, on the final note, if what you do is all that defines you, then you can do better. Some time ago, I had the honor of co-writing a book with my grandmother. Not unlike the kind of food that we ate last night, the shami kebab and the biryani. Just a completely wonderful experience with my grandmother, who was the closest person in my life, and who 4 months ago passed on. And this is a book of love. She was no celebrated chef. She was a woman who crafted every handful with love and passion and fed her children and grandchildren and believed nutrition and love is what strengthened our bones and nurtured our souls. And following that, I went on a little journey myself where I wrote another book called Spice Sorcery, a narrative of a young girl from the Kachimedan community who, in fact, marries just the way they traditionally do. So topics like we don't drink and so we eat, intoxicated all the time by the food instead of the beverage. The way to a man's heart is through his family's bellies, wherein the entire family needs to love your amazing biryani to be able to give you the nod for the right marriage. The biryani fest, which is an absolute frenzy of food, bereft of the splendor of the Falaknuma, but the biryani, believe me, holds your attention better than most and every. May the blessings pour down upon you. Now can we eat? Another way of looking at our marriages. Get over with the 5-minute nikah and then move on to the beautiful meal. So, I urge every one of us here, if you don't already, to look for inspiration in that lone pebble on the black beach, in that beautiful bowl of laksa. Enjoy the beautiful perfumery of anik, and also to remember that your inspiration will only come if you keep yourself free, empty, and childlike. The curiosity of a 6-year-old is what you need to embrace life. And remembering that what we do is just one aspect. The architecture is one fragment of the multiple avenues of layering our lives and being multidimensional. So whether it's a cookbook, the force of creativity can come into any play at any time and enrich you. So I would say that enjoy your life, live it deep and drink strongly from the cup of life, because you are only as good as how you live. Thank you.